Welcome to the discussion. My guest today is Kelly McCool, the Director of the Digital Warfare Office in the Navy's N9. Kelly, thanks so much for taking the time to join me.
Thank you.
Today we are talking about digital transformation. It's a common thing across not just the Defense Department, the Department of Navy, but really across every agency. And for the Navy, you all have as you well know, and we'll talk about today, the double challenge of digital modernization or digital transformation on land and at sea. So let's just start there at the beginning. What is your digital modernization strategy? How does it, from an N9 perspective, how are you taking on this big challenge? When
we talk about a strategy, I like to talk about the why question. And so why does the Navy need that digital strategy? The CNO recently just issued his OpNav, or his NAV Plan 2.0, I should say. And it really outlines the Navy's role in this joint fight, and it aligns with our national defense strategy. And so a NAV plan is one of those ship driving terms. It's really about how do I get from the place I am right now to the place I want to be. And really, both of these guidance documents highlight the changing security environment. We're in a significant long-term competition with China. We have really aggressive actions both with Russia and China that are changing our rules-based orders, or they are aggressively attempting to. As that maritime deployed force, we see ourselves as a significant part of the integrated deterrent strategy, which is a key part of the national deterrent strategy. The other thing is our security environment. It's really marked by this dramatic change in innovation and this ubiquitous sensing capability where it's difficult to hide your actions. And we're going to be operating in these contested spaces. So with that context, I really have three priorities that I'm focused on. The first one is, well, I'll list the three. So digital integration, digital modernization, and then decision advantage. And the three priorities really build on each other, and I'll kind of walk through what I mean by them.
I want to go through your three priorities, but let me take a half a step back. When the CNO issued the NAV plan, it's obviously Navy-wide, it's something for everyone. Does it have a specific piece for the digital warfare from a technology perspective? Everything's technology, we know that. But
right.
Or is it more your guiding principle that then you fit your three priorities?
It is really the CNO's strategic guidance for the force, for the future force design. And so it's a whole of Navy strategy document. In there, though, there's a significant discussion about decision advantage and about having to work with our joint force. And so we definitely, DWO, can see ourselves in this strategy as being integral to executing it.
And then that leads us to the discussion, digital integration, digital modernization, and decision advantage.
Yes.
Where do you want to start?
Okay, so they build on each other. So I'm going to start with digital integration. Really what that's about is how do we connect our tribes or our communities, our specialized communities. We have aviation, we have submariners, we have ship communities, sailors. But we buy these platforms. We buy ships, aircraft, and subs, but we don't focus enough on how we're going to communicate across these vehicles and how we're going to communicate with our joint force. So whether that's our naval partner, the Marine Corps, or the Air Force and the Army, having the ability to communicate across our layers at the tactical edge as well as across headquarters activities, having that ability to distribute information in a digitally integrated way is really what that digital integration priority is about. When I think about digital modernization, I am not really focused on transformation because of the unique nature we have with our fleet. Our digital modernization strategy is really focused on how do we become a software dominant naval force. If we want to maintain our maritime advantage, it is really critical in this dynamic security environment that we become a software dominant force. And so really it's about modernizing our legacy software approaches, which have these entanglements with our hardware And so it's hard to upgrade our software because we're tangled with our hardware. And so we have to break down those dependencies to free us for more agile software development and hardware upgrades on a different pace. And so that's the third priority, is digital modernization. And then finally, decision advantage. Really, the idea here is, and this is a central imperative in the CNO's NAV plan, is if we have digital integration and we can communicate across our forces, and we have this modernized software where we can release software updates quickly, now we have the building blocks to really measure our decision speed, and especially in complex scenarios, what are our areas where we need to improve? And then we'll build those software-dominant network systems to really get after this decision advantage, which is really all about making faster decisions with the wealth of information that's out there, faster, better decisions.
There's so much to dig out from that, and I think I could probably spend the entire rest of the time together on one of those. But let me maybe start with the digital modernization piece, and then we can you can fill in some of the other blanks. The fact that integration is connecting communities, but modernization is really using the software to be a dominant force. How are you going about that? I know you've talked to us in the past about something you referred to as Project Overmatch. Is that part of that software factory idea that we've seen that the Army is doing, the Air Force is doing? Is this a version that the Navy is doing?
Yes, absolutely. So Project Overmatch is really at the forefront of how we do DevSecops with a software delivery pipeline that uses agile software development capabilities. And there's a uniqueness, though, because in other DevSecops environments, you do the development in a way where you're always connected to the cloud or you're always connected to the web. We obviously, with our forward platforms, aren't going to have that connection. And so we will have a hybrid situation where we do our development in an agile way, and we'll have the capability to upgrade our software over the air while we're deployed. However, just because you can doesn't mean you should. There's a lot of learning that we have to grow into, but Project Overmatch is really at the forefront of delivering that capability.
Appreciate the explanation about Project Overmatch. And the fact is that, again, dissimilar to maybe some of the other services, you have to worry about, we may need new capabilities on this ship at this time, and we're not in a connected environment, or we're in an environment that we have to worry about Russia or China or whomever butting in a little too much. So where are you today with Project Overmatch? I know this is something you were talking about at least a year ago. I'm sure it's been an ongoing project. Can you just give us an update of where is it today, its status, and where's it going?
So we have the min-viable product capability we're expecting to deliver to the fleet here next year. And as I said, that will be our first instantiation of a DevSecops delivered capability. We're at the moment making sure that the crew that will be deployed is trained and ready to use the capability. So I guess, I talked about the DevSecops process, but the capabilities that get delivered with Project Overmatch are really in the areas of networking improvements and then decision support tools. And so that's what the fleet is getting trained on, is those specific operators that will be interfacing with these tools and the networking capability, getting them smart on how to use the system. And we've had some learning there too. Our traditional training methods of using PowerPoint to describe what a tool does is not really the most effective way to train some of our young sailors. And so we're now using a more alive sandbox environment where you can see the touch and the feel of the tool as well as how it really would operate. And so it's a little bit more intuitive, the learning that would happen there.
And if I could just clarify real quick, you mentioned the minimum viable product. You will deliver that next year, or you already have it and it will be on the fleet, on a initial fleet next year? It
will be deployed next year to a single carrier strike group. Okay. So that's an aircraft carrier plus several ships will have that capability. But the process to deploy includes operator workups. And so we're in that process right now where we're prepping the crew for that.
And once that gets deployed, I know it may be hard to talk about, but they'll use it as they see fit. Hey, we realize we have this hole or this gap, we'll fill it, and this is how we'll fill it. Is that the basic idea behind it?
Right, and there's a significant exploration that we have to do because, as I said, we don't, typically when we're deployed, we don't change software unless you absolutely have to, because you don't want to have a setback in mission effectiveness with the crew. So this is an area that, as the system is deployed, we're going to be exploring with the fleet as operational capabilities and operations allow and bandwidth allows. We'll be exploring those over-the-air updates and what makes sense. What's that right balance?
At the same time, do these DevSecOps approach this agile development? Do you have something on the headquarters side? That's the fleet side, but the CONUS side, is there also, we know Army has Army Software Factory, Navy has Black Pearl. Is that the other piece that you're kind of working into it as well? Yeah,
so I would say there's a lot of, for DevSecOps, we all need to go to DevSecOps. Right. We all need to start using modern software practices. And I would say on the business system side, that is ongoing. And what is unique about Overmatch is this capability to deploy to the fleet. Right. But in a development sense, there will be development going on shore-based, and we'll be continuing to upgrade tools and the analytic capabilities. As more proliferation of DevSecOps goes on, I think there's opportunity there for maybe common practices and common use cases, but I think we're a little too premature for that conversation yet.
Well, I'll throw another premature conversation at you then too, because that's what we do, right? Okay, so you get this deployed hopefully next year to the strike carrier fleet. Mm-hmm. That's number one. Do you have a time frame of when can we further deploy this? Obviously, it's going to take lessons learned. You'll see if it works. I mean, I get some of that, but from a CNO's perspective or just the Department of Navy's perspective, we'd like to be closer to this goal of a software-defined organization by when? Do you know? Is there a timeline like that?
We do have timelines.
Hopefully.
We do, and we're in the process right now of defining what is that capability evolution plan that we really want to go after in a time-phased growth approach. On the hardware side, you have to do that pretty deliberately. On the software side, we want it to be paced by the threat, and we'll have the processes in place to outpace the threat. Is the idea, but I won't speak to specific timelines.
Well, something that I'm sure will come out as you guys find more success and have some more progress, and something I'm sure we can follow up with you then. Kelly, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we can continue our conversation. We can talk about some of your other priorities. You're listening to the discussion, Modern Government, Digital Transformation, Data Collaboration, and Insights, sponsored by KPMG on Federal News Network.